I have one last question.
Sure.
And that is, what do you think is happening in the Middle East and how worried should the rest of the world be?
You'd be very worried.
Very worried.
Very worried.
Like future threatening worried.
This could work out really well, and it could work out absolutely disastrously. Iran is, by the way, I don't want to even say Iran.
It's the regime.
Yeah, the mullahs, the ayatollahs.
Right.
Those bad boys are super dangerous through their tentacles, by the way.
Yes.
And my concern is that violence is a language.
Yes.
When people don't speak violence natively, you have miscommunications.
Say more.
So, you saw those hypersonic ballistic missiles falling in Israel?
Yeah.
Yet no Israelis were killed?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I thought that's because of the shelters, the bomb shelters where people can hide.
I don't think so. I think it's because they didn't want to kill any Israelis.
They are trying to do a PR activity?
No, it's what you would call a credible advertisement. It's like, we can get through your Iron Dome. You may not know that, so we're going to show you that you are defenseless. If we want to unleash a barrage on Tel Aviv,
we can do it.
We can do it.
Right.
Now, that's how I read what just happened.
It's like that horse in Godfather, the head of the horse being placed in the bed of the Hollywood film producer.
Brilliant.
Right?
It's exactly that.
Yeah. Right.
Right? And so the idea is that message violence, people don't understand what message violence is. In general, you could kill somebody, but if you kill them in a spectacularly disturbing fashion, you might not have to kill anyone else.
Because the message travels.
Because it's so disturbing that you understand, hey, these people are absolutely
ruthless. Right.
They're not playing around.
Yeah.
And so in part, the idea of the language of violence is not well understood. What's more, people speak it with different accents, and there are false cognates. Right? So when you threaten Jews, you have to understand how much intergenerational trauma there is. They're not going to respond as if you threaten Muslims know that they're like, how many countries are Muslim and how many people? It's a large organization, let's put it that way. There aren't that many Jews. Jews are going to fight back in a different fashion. So my concern is that Iran tried to communicate with Israel. And Israel is going to interpret that probably as license to take out what it really fears, which is like the nuclear facilities. What's more, I don't think the population of Iran supports its mullahs. It's a small sliver that really believes in the ayatollahs.
Right.
What's more, Lebanon, is a complicated place. And so the South, the Shia South, and the
Sunni North.
Yeah, and the Christians, these are very different things. Now, the Israelis are much more attuned to Lebanon because they've been in a bunch of times. But I really worry that we've seen the skilled butchers exit the scene.
What do you mean skilled butchers?
Saddam Hussein was a very skilled butcher. He was. If you ever look at how the Ba'ath Party took over, when he basically, he started denouncing people and having them taken away on video.
Right.
And then he hands the sidearms to the remaining people to make them complicit.
Right.
Absolutely diabolical.
But stylish.
I don't want to say that. I would say message violence spoken as perfectly as anyone has ever spoken message violence.
Right.
If you think about Hafez al-Assad, if you think about Ariel Sharon, these were people who spoke violence at a very high level. Now, it's a weird thing to say because we all agree that violence is bad.
Right.
but that means we don't understand what's going on. So if you bring in judgment, I don't believe that violence is good, but I do believe that a skilled butcher is a skilled butcher.
Right.
And I worry that a lot of these current leaders are not skilled, and that means that the violence could spiral completely out of control. Particularly with what's going on with Putin in Ukraine. Clearly there's some sort of long-range plan that I don't think has been updated. I
think Russia has a long play. They're going to wait for... that seems to be the case, no?
I mean an American plan from the time of the fall of the Berlin Wall is that I think that what you're looking at is a 30-year plan to start to encircle Moscow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds... I mean,
particularly 2004, which is when you saw the Baltics admitted to Article 5 status within NATO. It was one thing in 1999 when Poland was admitted because it was Warsaw Pact, but it wasn't FSU, it wasn't former Soviet Union. In 2004, we did something that I saw then as crossing a line, and I thought, are you mad? You're going to make Latvia, which is very close to Moscow in certain terms, NATO.
Right.
And I don't know where we get the confidence. The same people who tell me that Putin will never use nuclear weapons are the same people who told me that Putin will never invade Ukraine.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if I would trust expert intelligence on that. I think human motivations act very differently.
I'm with you. And cornering a skilled player will make a skilled player into a reactive player. I worry that when most of us are cornered, we behave limbically. And you may think, well, he wouldn't do that. He's rich. Why would he destroy himself and his country? And the short answer, first of all, I tell everybody that the Russians had different relationships to nuclear weapons. They used them for engineering purposes in a way that we never did. And if you've ever drunk vodka with pickles with Russians are very different. They may look somewhat similar. That is a very different culture. And its relationship to risk is completely different than the American relationship to risk. So I think we don't understand the Middle East. We don't intuit it. We don't understand Eastern and Central Europe. We certainly don't intuit India and Pakistan. We don't intuit China and India. We don't intuit China and Taiwan. So I just think about a bunch of people in Foggy Bottom or inside the Beltway who fancy themselves experts on the world and have no clue how the world actually works. And that scares me.
And I also feel like it's to deal with somebody like a Putin, the difference is that he doesn't have to pander to his local population as much as the Americans have to, for that matter, right?
Well,
so his motivation structure is very different.
The Putins of Russia was fractal in the sense it was Putin's all the way down. Right? It's a strong man culture.
Right.
In general, Russians want to see strength. So he does have to project strength.
Right.
But I don't think, Americans make fun of him being, bare-chested on a horse or doing judo or whatever.
Right.
And it's like, you just don't get the language.
Yeah. You don't get the cultural complex.
You don't get the cultural complex.
Yeah.
And so what I'm worried about is that a bunch of people who grew up in the U.S. is not like the rest of the world. And our foreign policy is extremely muscular and our domestic policy is kind of flabby and weak. And I worry that people who don't intuit how the rest of the world works are going to make decisions and find out that the rest of the world isn't going to behave the way they expect. What we really also need to be worried about is a Suez crisis. The British Empire really ended during the Suez crisis when it was revealed that it wasn't potent enough to pull off what it needed to do. And I worry that we have an idea that the U.S. is an amazing superpower, but if you watch the way we withdrew from Afghanistan, are we as good as we think we are? Are we as strong? Do our Do our aircraft carriers work as well as we claim? Are our bases as stocked with munition? I don't know if the U.S. is revealed not to be capable of managing the Taiwan Strait, Eastern and Central Europe, and the Middle East simultaneously, we got real problems.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about Afghanistan. From the outside, it would seem like a more willingness to spend problem than having the money problem or having the ammunition problem. I feel like Afghanistan was sure embarrassing. But again, this could be my imagination. I feel that the United States is armed to the neck, except that it doesn't want to show.
We probably have some stuff that nobody's ever seen. So we've seen in the Ukraine situation that things are quite a bit different. Battle has changed. In particular,
Drone battle.
Oh my God.
Robots fighting each other.
Sure.
Yeah.
There are kinds of warfare that we have never seen that I'm sure that we're capable of, that we're trying to hold back. But not having finesse, if the only thing that you have is absolutely massive force and you can't pull off surgical stuff, then you've got a real problem.
Yeah, because force will meet force.
Well, it means that you want to escalate in a way where people know that you have a credible threat at every stage of the escalation. But if you immediately go
to 10 from 0,
that's not the way to conduct violence.
That's not a good way to play poker either.
Yeah.
Right.
All in.
ब्रदर, ये क्वेश्चंस और ये पॉडकास्ट सुन के आपके भी दिमाग के चक्षु खुले ना, सो subscribe to this so that you can watch our podcast in small bits and clips while you are busy and wasting your life away.